Welcome to HUSS video. Right now I'm talking with Big Bobby from the legendary M80s and Big Bobby and the Nightcaps, and it's been rock and rolling for a long time. Thanks, Bobby, for doing this interview.
No problem, man. Thanks for interviewing me.
I want to start off talking about you and your brother Witt Drawls, and I know that you both started playing when you were real young. I also know that you first started playing as a guitar player. So how did you start playing bass, and can you tell me about when you guys first started playing instruments, and how did you get into rock and roll?
Well, we were just pretty much young punks, you know. We probably got guitars when we were little kids, you know. Always we're into it, and then we got, you know, kind of junior high type age, and we really started playing with other people and the kids in the neighborhood and stuff, and we had a band, had a drummer and another guy playing bass, and me and Witt, like you said, I played guitar, and then the bass player split to play in this like heavy metal band or whatever, like they played like, you know, Motley Crue covers and stuff, so we were kind of like good riddance or whatever, but we needed a bass player, so I just kind of by default became the bass player.
How did you guys meet Eddie Pierce and Rusty, and how did you end up forming the M80s?
Well, we met Eddie first, probably around the same time when we had that early high school band, and we just were walking down the street one day in our neighborhood, and this guy's like, "Hey man, you kids want a beer?" And he's sitting on his front porch with a 24 pack of Budweiser or whatever, so we just started drinking with him and stuff, and that was how we met Eddie, and I guess we met Rusty a little later down the line, and played in several different bands with him, and finally, when we got the M80s going, we got him to, you know, "Hey, you want to come back and play with us," or whatever, and he ended up doing it, so that's kind of how that worked out.
So what were the names of those very first bands?
The very first band, I think, was called Undercurrent, was the name of the band, and we kind of moved from that, moved on to, we started hanging out with Eddie a lot more, and just listening to, you know, all kinds of getting turned on to lots of good music, and just turning ourselves on to that kind of thing, and buying records, all that stuff, and then we had a bunch of different names for the M80s before it became the M80s, so it kind of just evolved, really, but it was always kind of me and Witt just always had songs we were working on, and we just hung out, played together all the time, pretty much every day.
That's cool. So the M80s was kind of generally recognized, or at least as far as I know, one of the first real garage punk bands that I ever heard. How did you guys get into like that 60s garage rock thing?
Kind of just by, you know, being in the Stones and, you know, the Kinks and the Beatles, whoever, you know, being into that kind of rock music, it was just kind of natural to, like, you probably really got turned on to it through the Chesterfield Kings. Eddie brought that record home one day, and we all loved it and realized it was all like covers of early 60s punk songs, so that's really our first introduction into it. We were teenagers, you know, and then we just, you know, buy up all that stuff, Pebbles, Garage Punk Unknown, Nuggets, all that stuff, you know.
How old were you when the M80 started?
I was probably, like I said, when we first got it together, I was probably 17, 18 at the latest, and that was probably, we had different names. We had this guy, Dave Miranda, playing the drums, that's crazy, Mexican guy that would play the drums or whatever, and he was a complete nut or whatever, like had this alligator in his fucking bathtub in his house and stuff. But, and so anyway, I forget how that fell apart. It just, you know, one of those things, deal with fucking lunatics or whatever. It tends to not last too long, and then, you know, we kind of just kept evolving through different drummers till I said we talked Rusty into coming back, and then we just kind of originally said, "Hey, it's the M80s," and that was that, you know.
Do you have any good memories of, or any stories about, like, any cool shows or any, like, crazy things that happened in the band early on?
No, we used to go out of town quite a bit, you know, we'd play around, but just general mayhem, rock and roll mayhem, pretty much ensued at every gig, really. Yeah, I mean, rock and roll, you know.
when you guys broke up, what's your view on how you broke up and why you broke up?
Well, Witt, went through a lot of shit, and he was going through a lot of shit, divorce, and all that kind of like reality type life bullshit or whatever that fucks you all up. And so he kind of was sporadic, you couldn't really count on him. So kind of he quit. Other guys were kind of like, hey, let's try and do it with somebody else. And so I kind of hung around for a week or two and tried out a couple guitar players, but it just wasn't the same. So I was like, this is retarded and fucking pointless or whatever. So that was that.
All right, is there anything you want to say to your fans before we close?
Thanks, all fucking three of you, for watching the fucking video or whatever.
All right, thanks a lot, Bobby.
No problem.
And thanks for watching HUSS.